Hello, Professor. We are Group 16. The following presentation will be given by Zheng Liting, Lin Yongshi, and Song Wencheng. Today, we present our research, Creative Connotations and Stage Interpretation of Wang Lisan's 2 points inspired by Li He, a templatless dialogue where poetry and music converge. Next, I will briefly walk you through the core framework. This presentation has six parts. Includes opening introduction, literature review, definition of core concepts, research methods, and a summary of core views. The background is the wave of exploration for the nationalization of Chinese piano music in the early days of reform and opening up, with the core proposition of interpreting traditional culture with modern musical language. Our research object, 2 points inspired by Li He, is based on Li He's Dreaming of Heaven and the Qin King's Strings Wine. Integrating Tang Poi's artist conception with Western composing techniques, our research purpose is to explore the deep logic of poetry music integration and the path of stage interpretation, providing references for similar works. Domestically, scholars have analyzed the world's pentatonic scales and composing techniques. Foreign studies focus on performance guidance and the composer's life. Most existing studies concentrate on single techniques or individual works. Lacking systematic discussing on the deep mechanism of poetry, music integration, and the practical path of stage interpretation, which is the entry point of our research. We define 3 core concepts. First, poetry music integration, not just poetry with background music, but a deep echo between poetry and music. Second, nationalization of piano music, integrating traditional Chinese culture elements into the Western piano framework. Third, poetic transformation in stage interpretation. Performance use techniques like key, touch, and dynamics to make musical notes convey poetic artist's conception. Next, my group member Lin Yongshi will give a speech.
Hello, I'm Lemwing C, and I will continue the presentation on about the definition of core concepts. First of all, I would like to talk about the poetry music integration. Not poetry with background music, but the deep echo between the imaginary and rhythm of poetry and the sound and structure of music, realizing cross-media transformation through techniques such as register contrast and rhythm stimulation. And the second, I would like to share about the nationalization of piano music. Talking about the integrate traditional music cultural elements like poetry rhythm and pentatonic mode into the Western piano technical framework, forming an expression with both national characteristics and modernity. What is more about the poetic transformation in stage interpretation? Performers convert musical notation into auditory experience that conveys poetic artistic conceptions through techniques such as key touch, dynamics, and pedal use, realizing poetry in sound. And next, I will like to talk about the research methods. We use the literature research method. So first of all, Wang Lisan's creative background, including letters, interviews, and creative notes of other Hill collection to clarify the creative motivation of 2 poems by Li He. Liu's poetry research, involving annotated edition of complete Tang poems and Xienan Xin studies on self-images in Liu's poetry to interpret the imaginary and historical context of Dreaming of Heaven and the Qin King Drinks Wine. Nationalization of piano music, encompassing Li Xiaoluo's research on dialect elements and Zhang Tinshuo's analysis of piano works with Asian poetry themes to build the theoretical framework of the research. And also about the research value through literature comparison, identifying the definitions of existing research and establish the innovative entry point is also included. And the second research methods we used is about the text analysis method. First of all, I would like to talk about the core logic. And we can see the score is take musical scores and original poetry as objects to analyze the logic of imaginary transformation. Like some specific examples, just like the Dreaming of Heaven, focus on measure 1 to 9, just like example 1. The slow single notes in the left-hand bass register, just like B notes in measure 5, stimulating sobbing, and the harmonic light grace notes at pianissimo dynamics in the right-hand treble register to restore the cold moonlight. And the second specific example is about the Qin King Drinks Wine, just focusing on the measures 22 to 32, like example 2. Here, the octave intervals hand bass register stimulating staggering steps, and the right hand triplet texture restores the pipa sounds. And here is the presentation of the examples. Simplified example 1 and example 2 mark the core notes, dynamics, and rhythm. And the third research methods we can use is the practical analysis methods. Just like, first of all, I will talk about the interpretation techniques. Adaptation of interpretation techniques and connotations. Dreaming Heaven, Session A. Relax shoulders and wrist, play with crisp fingers touch, and connect phrases with breathing to restore illusory sense of the moon palace. The Qin King Drinks Wine, like Session B, measures 35 to 38. Start softly with single notes crescendo, using fingers and pad touches with progressive arm length to create the magnificent momentum of the feast. Talking about the score details, we can handling the score details for dance accidental starting from measure 24 of Dreaming of Heaven and frequent clap changes up to measure 39 of the Qin King Strings Wine. Avoid the impact of misinterpreting symbols on poetic expressions through accurate score reading and muscles memory training. And here is the part of my presentation. I will not like to pass to my partner to talk about the summary of core views. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Songwen Chen. I will continue the summary and the conclusion part. After looking at the existing studies, we can sum up three main core views. First, about how the music was composed. Most scholars agree that the biggest achievement of 2 points by Li He is mixing Western 12-tone technique with Chinese pentatonic music. This breaks the limits of traditional music styles but keeps Eastern cultural beauty, making it a great example of Chinese-style music exploration. Second, two ideas about how poetry and music connect. The first is technique matching, led by Chen Haoran. He thinks the key is that music's rhythm and tone should fit the poem well. For example, in the Qin King Drinks Wine, the music's special beats match the poem's rhythm. The second is meaning passing on, from He Xuanling. She says music should focus on showing the poem's feeling and cultural ideas, not just describing sense. Finally, two ways to play the work on stage. The first way is players must follow the score strictly, like playing soft piano and controlling the harmonic well in Dreaming of Heaven to keep the composer's original playing. The other group thinks players need to deeply understand the poem first, then they can use their own playing style and pedal scales to show the cultural meaning. Now, here are our research conclusion and future plans. First, what did we find? Composer Wang Lisan mixed Western 12-tone technique with Chinese pentatonic music in a creative way. This built a special connection between poetry and music. Music fits poetry's form, passes its feelings, and they help each other grow. Why is this research useful? It fills some gaps in current studies, like how poetry and music can connect deeply and how to actually play such works. It also gives new ideas for researching Chinese style piano music and practical advice for piano players. Looking ahead, we want to do two more things. First, compare this work with Wang Lisan's other pieces. Second, compare Chinese and Western works that mixed poetry and music to find their differences. This could help Chinese piano music be more widely known around the world. That's all for our research sharing. Thank you for listening.